What's up, Rockstars? Today I have a very fun, very serious top 10. This is in order from least to most, and I'll try not to get too heated here, but the top 10 things that really bother me when it comes to shipping in the board game crowdfunding space. I'm not going to name any specific games. I'm not going to name any specific instances. You guys can plug those in. I'm sure you have plenty of examples yourself. If you have one that maybe I should be aware of, or maybe see if I was thinking this or not, because I don't mind, confirming that in comments and stuff like that, actually have a conversation with you, let me know in the comments below what either your 10 are, or whether you agree or disagree, or what examples you have of these, or maybe it's something I missed entirely. That's definitely possible. It's very easy to probably do a top 15, but we're keeping it at 10 because that's what everybody does. So let's conform. Starting with number 10. I hate things that are impossible to unbox. There was an example of this just recently. I haven't even posted a video of it yet, so I'm not even giving a specific example here, but where I had to rip the box open. It was packed so tight in there that it's kind of like when two buckets fit into each other and you try to pull, the other box wouldn't come out. I actually had to tear open the outer box to get to the inner box. That is a level of just ridiculousness. You got to balance, I think companies need to balance shipping their thing and making it arrive secure and being able to open it up and knowing that the unboxing experience is the very first experience anybody has with your game. So if the unboxing experience isn't pleasant, you're already kind of going into the game with this bad attitude, even if it's on a subconscious level. It was not an enjoyable experience to do that. It should be a delight to open the box and find it and have everything nice and stuff like that. And then of course, as you manage storage, there's shipping needs and then there's storage needs, at home when it's just on your shelf, which by the way, let me know, vertical or horizontal. I'm a vertical guy, as you can see, that we don't have to lift up stuff to pull other stuff up. But then some of you guys are I'm going to face it in the front and be all fancy. But anyway, so impossible to unbox or unboxing in a difficult way or in a frustrating way. Number 10, definitely an annoyance. We're going to start a little petty. We're going to get real serious though. Trust me. All right, number 9, untrackable tracking. What do I mean by that? Well, sometimes you get a tracking email and it's hey, by the way, this distributor that distributes lots of companies' games is sending you a box. And then you look and you're oh, it's 20 pounds. Oh, that's a 25-pound bag. So what did I back that's delivering now this 25? You don't know. You have to guess. There's no tracking what it actually is. You just know there is a package weighing a lot coming to you from what seems to be a board game company. And then sometimes you get some that you don't even know. You've never even heard of it. They're using some one that you either haven't had experience with before or is up and coming or whatever. Either way, it's a company you never even heard of and you get this notification and you're well, I got tracking, but it's not really tracking anything. All I know is that there's something arriving probably Wednesday. That's always kind of annoying. And I don't know how many times I could count per month that on my Discord, my patrons or myself or whatever is hey, I just got a notification for this. And what's delivering right now that could be? And we all take guesses at it. Sometimes we're right, often we're not, and it's something nobody even thought of. So that's really frustrating to get a tracking that isn't actually tracking. It'd be wonderful if one of the companies involved in that, and there's multiple companies involved, right, could communicate that out better. That'd be great. I would thank you so much for that. Just put a company name on there if nothing else, but even a game name, that'd be awesome. All right, number 8. I don't have this happen often, but it's because I buy games, as you can see, that are far too big for their own good. But, if you buy a single boxed game, often you will get that box inside of a bag. And that just blows my mind that we're shipping boxes inside of bags. You would think it would be the opposite. So you have this game that's obviously in a box, and then you put a bag over it that isn't going to really protect it at all, and then ship it. So the box gets damaged. It's I think it's cheaper for a lot of small games, especially because you get these padded envelopes that are flat rate and stuff like that. But it's one of those instances where they're cheaping out, and that cheapening out, again, gives you, even if your game is fine in there, it gives you kind of a negative first impression. When you first get it, you're really, that's what you shipped it in? You want it to be quality. That's, again, my first experience with your game is when I open it up. And if I open it up thinking, I cheaped out on this one, not necessarily a good thing. And, that bag ain't going to do nothing to protect that box. It's got sharp corners, the bag does not. All right, that kind of leads into number 7, but a cheap box. There was a time where it seemed every game that I got, almost every game that I got, had the cardboard box it was shipped in practically fall apart. I think they used like post-consumer recycled 5 times over kind of like light, airy, fluffy cardboard. But you could just rip it with your hands easily. It was the cheapest stuff ever. The game box was better quality. The tokens were better quality. The card stock, I think, could have protected it better. This was like the cheapest, like you push in and it just like dents in and stuff like that. It feels cheap. It feels light. It's like styrofoam cardboard. It was like paper that's slightly thicker. Like, and then not even like it was all hollow inside. Just really bad experience. Again, like you got to protect the game first of all, but you just don't want the consumer to think about how cheap you are when you send it. Now, that goes against a lot of the like expense that we get, so I get that, and you kind of have to wonder, okay, well, where do we lower the price, right, or the cost? And you know, you could argue a whole thing on whether or not the cost is actually just artificially lower by putting it all into shipping anyway, and that's why it's so expensive, not because they're actually spending a lot on it. They're like, there's all sorts of things you could discuss there, but either way, a cheap box is a cheap box, and it sucks. Again, it's one of those things where you end up destroying the box, opening it up, or you certainly don't want to keep it. All right, number 6. A game that comes in multiple boxes. Now, I know there's some necessity there, although I did just, this is a positive example, I guess, so I just unboxed the Chronicles of Druidgar Apocalypse. They sent it to me. As like a production proof, so it wasn't a final thing, and it's not how everybody's going to get it. But when I got it, it was in this gigantic box. Super wrapped up, everything was safe in there and sound, so that was good. And it was a big box. You can get boxes pretty darn big. Now, obviously the costs are different there, but when you get them in 2 separate boxes, the problem is that often they'll arrive at different days, or one might even get lost. So I've had this experience before. Again, it's not a video I've even made for you guys yet, but where like the box came and it was just the expansion. So I didn't have the core game, and then the core game simply never came. It just didn't come and didn't come. And so then eventually I'm like, okay, look, obviously it's not coming. So, and again, I had no tracking or anything like that. I just got box 1 of 2 or 2 of 2 or whatever it was. And so then I had to wait for them to ship a second one so I could get the core game and actually be able to even play the game. Nonetheless, like use it. So you get all this useless stuff. And even if it isn't lost, it's often coming on different days. And so you either get the core game with nothing else, or you get all the other stuff and not the core game. And when they're not delivered in tandem like that, again, it diminishes that feeling of being useful and being exciting when you only get half your stuff, and then you're checking to see if the other one's coming and where it's at and why it's delayed, and it gets messy. It gets messy. I know why they do it, but that doesn't mean that it's all positive. That part kind of sucks. All right, number 5. The only reason this is worse is because it's when it ships and never arrives at all. I know a lot of you comment on this all the time. I was like, hey, I never got a game. If you shipped it, I don't know. If maybe I got the tracking and it just never shows up. It's not like anybody even stole it. I have literally had it to where I'm like sitting in my front office in my house, window outside to the door, nothing comes, and then you get the notification like, oh yeah, we like can't find your package, or it's like somewhere in another state now, or you get the same notification that it's like still ready, and you're like, well, okay, apparently it's in limbo in the like portal that is the delivery service here, at least here in America. But I know in other countries struggle with this a lot, where it's just like they never sent your package. Sometimes they literally don't, and you're like, oh, I'm one of like 4,000 people or whatever that didn't have any freight, so there's just no product here for me, or for whatever reason the 3PL they're using can't logistically find it. It sucks. It sucks buying a game, getting excited, even thinking you're going to get it, and then it never comes. And everybody else is like, oh, thanks, yeah, it's a great game. And you see all the unboxings, you see all the reviews, never arrives. Again, tracking could help with this, but often there's just not much tracking, or that untrackable tracking. All right, these next few are finally getting more serious. We're in the top 5 now, and these are ones that I think are legitimately negative and not just like me kind of like, oh yeah, it sucks when that little thing happens kind of thing. Though I think not getting your game you paid for kind of sucks too. All right, number 4. Tell me if you've seen this one or not. The price of the shipping is for the core game only, and then the campaign is very obvious where the stretch goals are pre-planned. In other words, they know the stretch goals that are going to happen. Sometimes it's even a daily reveal, and yet they will not price that out. They always still give you the core shipping price when it comes to the campaign page where they show you the cost of it. And then they're like, oh, well, that's why it's more expensive, because we didn't have all the stretch goals. When you knew you had the stretch goals, all the renders were there, everything was there. In fact, you could even like put in if we hit all the stretch goals, it'll be this much. If we get 50% of the stretch goals, it'll be this much. You could even do that if you wanted. Or they don't know. Even if they didn't know, they could still update it, right? Up until the last few days, last 48 hours, everybody gets an updated shipping thing. So everybody knows before they charge your card, hey, now that everybody's looking at the last 48 hours, we're pretty much done with stretch goals. We can add a few more, but this is a closer ballpark than it was when we only listed the core box. I have spoken to several developers. I'm talking 4 at least that I could name right now, where they can give me a quote on shipping the same day. It does not take a long time to get a quote. Now, that quote isn't always exact, and that's fine. But you can just message your guy that does the logistics stuff for that company, and they will get back to you. Oh, okay, yeah, it costs this much now. Oh, yeah, it'd be this much now. You can get a quote pretty darn quick for, okay, yeah, well, this is how much it'd be about. That, and, I mean, unless it's your first game, you tend to kind of know what's going on, right? You can pretty much estimate, especially if you're actually close to actually delivering a game, which hopefully you are. And it's not just like some, pie in the sky concept or something like that. But yeah, it really annoys me that they act like they don't know what they're unlocking or could unlock, and they don't, or refuse, I should say, to update that shipping table unless it's to lower it. So often if it's too high and there's feedback, suddenly, oh yeah, we can update the shipping table. Oh, look, we got a better deal. But if ever there's like stretch goals and they want to I don't know, maybe price that out. Like, hey, here's the actual thing. We added a whole nother double box full of stretch goals. That's often why there's 2 different boxes. Yeah, it's going to cost this much now. Let people know. That really bothers me. Number 3, this is a personal thing. It's also, I think, an industry thing. And I'll tell you why it's both. 2-wave shipping. I hate 2-wave shipping, or I should just say multi-wave shipping. So first of all, if you need 2 waves, obviously your scope is, I think, already out of control, and you're already not far enough along to where you can kind of actually properly estimate the other wave. And there's so many stories you could point to, and I'm sure you guys are thinking of some now, where it was very obvious by the time they get to the wave 2 stuff that it's not all designed at all. They have to figure it out afterwards, especially now that they've already delivered 1. Now, from an industry perspective, it allows them to be able to ship errata and 1.5s and updates in that second wave, which is awesome. However, it also is kind of like once games, video games, got an internet connection always, and so then they're like, oh, we can just do a day 1 patch. And suddenly it's more okay to deliver an unfinished product because you can always fix it later. And if you always have that opportunity to do that, there's always that more inclination to where ship it, we'll fix it later. Ship it, we'll fix it later. Not, okay, we got to get this right, then ship it because this is our one chance that we're delivering. So it inherently adds that opportunity, and in which case, then that temptation to do so. From a personal side, Wave 2 stuff always arrives when I'm no longer playing Wave 1 stuff. So I've already played your game and enjoyed it, or I didn't really care for it, or it never really hit the table. Either way, the buzz, the hype is gone. So I get this stuff. And I remember specifically getting some of these Wave 2 where I'll open it up, I'll unbox it, I'll say that's cool, and it goes right back in the box, never to be played. I'm done with that game. I've moved on. Look how many games I have. I don't have enough time to play all these games. If you guys are like me, you know what I'm talking about. Like this video if you agree with me. You know what this is all about. And so you get this game a year later, 2 years later, 6 months later. Doesn't matter. Either way, your group ain't playing that game no more, okay? We're not going to pick up where we left off and find, where the thing is and reorient ourselves with the rules and all that. No, it's already too late. You got the one chance to do it. Maybe do a sequel and I'll play through that. But to add it to the first one, that can be kind of rough. So it tends to be the case. Not always. Sometimes it revitalizes my interest in it, but often the case. Often. It just means that all that stuff that I bought, I never used because it wasn't there for the Wave 1. And if it wasn't there when I'm playing the game, then what use is it anyway? At that point, it's collecting lots of Idaho dust on my shelves. All right, so we're in the top 2 now, okay? So, I'm already getting a little heated, you can tell. And I'm trying to tone it down a little bit, but I'm also being real with you guys, right? I mean, this is just stuff I deal with as a consumer, and I'm sure you guys do too. I'm sure I'm not alone here. If you don't experience this, let me know your secret, please. But seriously, when I hate it, number 2, when the cost is suddenly much more directly after the campaign. So not only is it a stretch goal issue thing there, right? I've already kind of spoken this, but this is like a blatant, hey, we ran the campaign and we got our quotes right before the campaign. These were accurate 2 months ago, right? And then you have that quick turnaround to the Pledge Manager, which is normally good. It means you're speeding along. And suddenly the price doubles. Either you're terrible at estimating or you're kind of what I would consider falsifying things in a certain way. All right, I'm not trying not to make accusations here, but seriously, if you're half of what it is, you either really suck at estimating, some crazy thing happened in the world. Not always the case, especially within those like 2 months, 3 months or whatever, right? To where it's drastically different. Or there's some games being played with numbers during the campaign versus real numbers afterwards, right? We're going to get to that in the number one. But seriously, it's like that really bothers me because to me, it seems a little bit more malicious. It seems a little bit more purposeful or egregiously incompetent. And I doubt it's that. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and I just assume you're being a bad person than an idiot. Like, I'm not saying anybody is an idiot because, again, I'm inclined to think the other way, that you're not just so far off on your estimates. So completely like I don't know if you made it up with some like napkin math or something, or like you threw some marbles and had the spirits tell you what it is or something like that. But if you're half wrong within a few months, get better or stop playing around with numbers, one or the other. Okay, so number one, freight. I hate that just in this microcosm, tiny little bubble of board game crowdfunded games, that it is considered okay to take freight out of the MSRP and put it into shipping. Nowhere else when you buy things does that happen. When you go on Amazon, when you go on anywhere like that, the price is baked into the product that you're buying for freight. In other words, to get it there, you pay that last mile shipping that they like to call it here on the crowdfunding space, Kickstarter, BackerKit, GameFound, all that. These board game companies started doing this, and I understand it because if everybody else is doing it, you're at a disadvantage not to do it. Right? It's kind of like if everybody's speeding and suddenly you're going the speed limit, now you're a danger, right? If you are a business and you're trying to actually sell your product and your product is more expensive than everybody else because everybody else is falsely taking cost out and putting it in there, then like you're at a disadvantage. Suddenly, oh, why is your game so expensive? Well, because they're faking it, right? So it's the sticker shock. So if you could say, oh, my game's $100 and then shipping is $80. Well, no, your game's $180. And if the actual shipping of that is not the 80, the shipping of that is something even less. They added freight in there. So the freight just gets it to the warehouse, which just means I have product in stock. You don't pay other companies to have stock. You pay for them to ship their stock to you. Nowhere else when you buy online except board game, Kickstarter, GameFound, BackerKit, whatever kit, found starter thing you're using, is freight included in shipping. That is just falsely making the price seem lower than it actually is. And then once they get you in the door with that lower price, they charge you for the extra stuff. It gets worse than that because they add so much more. There's often a level of customer service that's also being paid in shipping because the freight company will actually handle like first tier like problems when it comes to like missing packages and stuff like that. And that's a service you pay for. And then there's added stuff on top of the freight. You can get like freight that's, you know, weather resistant and weather conditioned and stuff, so it doesn't get too hot and mildewy on the Pacific Ocean or whatever. You can go premium on that for your stock. But now you're having the customer pay for you to get your stock very nice as well. You can put a lot of stuff and weasel in all the money that would normally be in the price of your product and pretend to call it shipping. And I hate it. I hate that that's acceptable. I hate that everybody does it. I hate that that's the game everybody plays. It sucks. A lot of you could probably say that is very similar to that if you're in Europe. I am not, so I don't really fully comprehend that because I don't live that life. But I know you guys do and know how it is when you're buying literally anything else but Kickstarters, right? And suddenly if you're on Kickstarter, if you're on crowdfunding board games, suddenly now it acts different. Well, all that's pretend stuff. Again, artificially lower the price. Cannot stand it. By far my number one, just because it is so egregiously wrong that and then they act like it's right. Like, if nothing else, just admit, hey, look, everybody else is doing this. Our peers are doing this. Everybody's doing this. And if I don't do that, you won't buy the game because you'll think it's too expensive because I can't put $180 there. So I'll put $100 there and $80 shipping, right? It's just like the meme with like Drake or whatever. I think the lady does it too, where they're like, no, I don't want to pay all that in shipping. Or, hey, it's free. Except it's reversed. It's, hey, I will pick whatever the lowest amount is and then just pump everything else at the end. Anyway, it sucks. And then there's like, okay, well, maybe we'll pay for some of it. And now suddenly there's like this weird thing where you've priced your product wrong and then you're trying to fix it afterwards, right? It's just bad for everybody involved. And for this entire industry, it's a travesty. I can't stand it. Guys, what is your top 10? I'm sorry, I got a little heated there, but those top 5 really get me. The other ones are kind of annoying, but those top 5, I have a problem with. I really do. I spend a lot of money in this industry. I love this industry. I really enjoy working with awesome developers who are passionate about their product. But some of the icky things that they have to do to just operate as a business, the business stuff, I often don't like the business stuff. I really don't. But whatever, it is what it is. Guys, let me know your top 10 if you are different than this, or if you'd order them different, or like, you know what, I don't care about that at all. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, because I can speak to that. I will read them. I will respond as I can. And that'll help guide me to what I'm showing you on Kickstarter. When I'm showing a campaign and I'm telling you, hey, look at this game, and you guys are hyper-focused on X, Y, or Z, I can certainly attune to that and speak to that for you guys. Bring that out to your attention. So do let me know. I always appreciate it. Guys, have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye, guys.